So what we're going to look at today is the Heat and the Celtics, and in particular how the Celtics have won the last two games in fairly dominant fashion, and how the Heat won the first three games, and what changed from the Celtics from, in particular, Game 2 and Game 5. The first area we're going to look at is the personnel that the Celtics have on the floor. So the first thing we're going to notice is in this early clip from Game 2, they have Robert Williams starting, which is going to cause the effect that the Celtics are going to have less three-point shooting on the floor. This is going to be the big concept that we touch on today. So because they have Robert Williams, they're able to essentially have Bam Adebayo and Kevin Love sink off into the paint, because Robert Williams and Al Horford is somewhat, but Robert Williams in particular is a non-shooting threat from the outside. So you can just provide extra help. So in these first three possessions, these are the early three possessions that the Celtics had against the Heat in Game 2. We can see that Smart is settling for mid-range jumpers. Posting up Marcus Smart doesn't seem like the best option for an efficient offense. And then when Jaylen Brown looks to drive here, we're also seeing that he's just cut off, met with bodies, has to settle for a mid-range jumper. That is going to be a win for the Heat in the long run. The next area we're going to look at is when we go now to Game 5. So we see the personnel here for the Celtics. Instead of having Robert Williams, they have Derek White. That represents a massive three-point shooting upgrade. So because of that, the Heat have to spread much more farther out on defense because they represent each of the threat. The moment they show any kind of help, where Jimmy Butler and or other Heat defenders collapse in the paint, you have kickouts that leads to open threes for Marcus Smart, a much better offense than that post-up we saw earlier. Here we can see loosely in transition, same thing applies. Move the ball around, miscommunication, don't get back on defense. You can punish them much more aggressively than you would have before with Robert Williams. And then finally, my favorite single possession, we can see the Celtics moving the ball around with five small. I love the fact that Jaylen Brown relocates outside behind the three-point line, pump fakes, drives, even though it's cut off, just move it, look for a cut, kick out, find the open person, punish any help. So then the obvious question is, okay, so if the Celtics are going small and the Heat know the Celtics are going small, why don't the Heat just post up their post players and take advantage of it? So, first play to start Game 5. Here it is. The Heat are attempting to post up Bam Adebayo. Want to create an advantage right here. What do the Celtics do? They collapse in. Marcus Smart gets a hand on the ball, forces a turnover. So the Celtics take what the ideal situation is for the Heat and take it to their own gain on defense. Again, we can see again in the first quarter, Bam Adebayo looks for a post-up. What do the Celtics do? They collapse in as he's driving. Bam pressures a little bit, turns it over. So then my question is, if the Celtics knew all this, like you would think they'd be able to logically do, did they do that in the first three games at all? And the answer is yes, they did. This is again from Game 2. The moment Al Horford comes in, they get an easy layup at the rim. The difference is they did this with 6:45 in the first quarter instead of starting the game with it and essentially giving more opportunity for this effective lineup to be in the game. So then finally the question is, are the Heat going to adjust? Did they adjust at all? And this is the first play of the second half. You can notice the Heat on defense, who do they not have right now? They don't have Kevin Love. So this is their response, as they just went a little bit smaller themselves to try and counteract the guard play and stay home on shooters. So then the question for Game 6 and Game 7 is, are the Heat just going to start with that small lineup? And if they do, is that going to be effective? And the Celtics, are they able to just essentially ride without Robert Williams for as long as possible and make sure they really make the most advantage of their shooting lineups? And I think we're going to have that answer within about the first 10 minutes of Game 6, and I look forward to finding out.